Hey, and welcome into the Productive Point of View. This is your host, Jake Jordan, and thanks for coming in today to listen to my guest, Eli Hochberg. And he is from Elevated Systems, and we met not that long ago on LinkedIn. Eli, how are you doing
Yeah,
today?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
I'm really good. This is what I love doing, so
That's
it's good.
perfect.
So when I have a guest, I'm happy.
Yeah, you know you made it in life when you love what you do.
That's right. Well, Eli, tell us a little bit about yourself. What are you doing?
Sure. So I have a consulting company and I'm branding myself as an idea maker.
Mhm.
So ever since I'm not even kidding, like 5 years old, I've always wanted to be like a CEO of a company where I can come up with the ideas and then not have to worry about running the business side. So what I do is I take that creativity and my experience with business and help people figure out systems to get them running through so they're not doing stupid tasks, basically.
So Elevated Systems makes sense.
Exactly. Elevated. You got it.
Very cool. Very cool. So you must be into AI a little bit then too for doing stupid
I,
tasks.
I do love it. I also think that there's so many tasks, like we're at AI, which is the next step. But even before that, there are people that are 2 steps behind. So
Right.
even if I could bring them into current, like what we're doing now, even without the AI, they can do much better.
So give me an example of something like that. So if you have a client that comes to you and says, "Hey, Eli, I've got X, Y, and Z going on. What do you do for me? How do you help me elevate my systems?"
Sure. So I like to focus on marketing and branding. So usually social media is 10 years old, right?
Mhm.
Most of the people that I meet or I interact with are 50 plus. So if you're 50 years old and older, you don't really know social media so well. People tell you have to be on it, but you don't know what you're doing. And
Uh-huh.
so you'll throw yourself at it for a week or two and then you'll get burnt out and nothing will happen. So I
Right.
like to help people focus on doing things where they can get a system in place. So like if you do X, Y, and Z every single time, it'll work. So that would be an example. Like I help people set up a LinkedIn strategy or I help them set up a Facebook strategy. That's part one. And part two is I'm very big on the personal brand. Like I wear the same thing every day. Like I'm very big on you need to have a brand. So I help people figure out what their brand is and then how they can take steps to make sure people know what their brand is. So
Very
that's like
cool.
on the marketing side.
Very cool. So let's take that LinkedIn string for a second because that's where you and I met,
Right.
and you've gained some notoriety on LinkedIn as someone who's fun to follow and got some cool posts out there. And so I assume you had a system for yourself to just dive into when you started, right?
Absolutely. So I didn't throw myself into just trying it if it would work. I had a goal behind it. At the time I started, I think a month before I left the marketing company because I knew I was going to be leaving in a month. Like it was a 6 month gig, and I
Uh-huh.
really wanted to get out and obviously get business for myself because that was my next step. So I hopped on there with two goals: number one, to show up consistently, and number two, to be valuable. I never like seeing cat pictures on my feed or links to Forbes articles. I don't like it, so
Right.
I decided not to do it. I wanted to post what I liked, and there are people that like that as well. So that was my strategy. I've been testing different things. I've been experimenting with times and article content and all that kind of fun stuff. And because of that, and I'm being transparent with that, I am experimenting. People are following along.
Okay. And you're kind of taking the Gary Vee approach of documenting too, right? You're kind of telling
Yep,
people what you're doing as you do it.
exactly. Yeah. So Gary Vee, like I'm inspired not necessarily by like his hustle stuff. Like that's kind
Yeah.
of cool, but it's not my thing. But I am inspired by the fact that he documents everything. I very much want to do something similar to the Daily V where he records like what he does every day. I want to do something similar to that. So that's going to be my next like 3 year plan. It's going to be on that.
Awesome. Very cool. So that's a lot, right? A lot of people, especially your target audience, is going to be super overwhelmed by that, right? So how do you take something like that and or where people are watching you do this and seeing you be successful and translate that down into something that's really easily packaged for them or like distraction free? How do you keep people from careening off, you know?
So you're asking like how can people do this themselves?
Yeah, because it's easy to get distracted, and if they
Right.
don't have a plan, even if they do have a plan, it's easy to get distracted. So yeah, how do you recommend people go about that?
Absolutely. So actually, like, it's funny you asked that because literally on Sunday, I started doing a time blocking system where I'm super ADHD. Like I'm all over the place. If I hop on my feed and I see something, I'll do that, and I'll do that, and I'll do that. 3 hours go by. So I've started time blocking, and I actually posted a post about it where 7 a.m. I hop on, I put my post up. I found that to be the best time. Um, and then I just close out. I'm done. I don't do
Mhm.
anything else until 2 o'clock p.m. when I'll take about a half hour, an hour, go through, answer requests, messages, notifications, comments, and then I'll do that again at 5. And then at 6, done, the app gets locked, my browser locks it, and I can't access it till 7 the next morning. So that's like my strategy for it, because you're right, it's so easy to go down the rabbit hole and disappear.
Cool. So 2 things I heard there that I love is, number 1, you schedule it, whatever that plan is for you, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. Right. And 2, sounds like you've got maybe some environment planning going on, like locks on your browser and whatnot. What is that?
Yeah. So I use on my browser, I use a program called Freedom, where it blocks certain sites. You could just set a schedule for it to block certain sites. I did that with anything work related after 6. So my cutoff time, 6 o'clock, I'm done. And that way I'm not working till 11 o'clock at night and then being burnt out the next day. And then on my phone, I use an app called Off Time, which A, tracks how much I use my phone, and B, will allow me to block certain apps or notifications or phone calls after certain times. I do the same thing on my phone. And that's a huge productivity hack, actually, is to not work after 6.
Yeah, because you need that recovery time, right?
Exactly.
That's awesome, man. And I think a lot of people know that these type of things maybe exist, but just don't use them, especially on your phone. One thing that I do is I use my alarms on my phone. I have 8 alarms every day on my phone. So I'm using my smartphone. That's one of my biggest distraction tools to keep me on task.
To help you. You're beating it at its own game. Great job.
That's right. That's right. So cool. So obviously, I mean, we talked before, we were on air about you being a super millennial, which means that tell me what that means. What is a super millennial to you?
So I'm a super millennial that I recognize where the world is going. I'm not trying to fight, and I'm sure you've seen this, how people hate millennials. Like, they're fighting it. They're so pissed off at us. And I'm sorry. Okay. We're here. We're doing it. So we're just here. So I'm a super millennial in that I embrace what we're doing. So we have technology, we have tools, we have AI, we have all kinds of ways to make our lives easier. Why not make our lives easier? I do that. I've got a smartwatch because I didn't want to take out my phone and get distracted. I have a tablet and a laptop so that I can go to meetings, but not have to bring my laptop. I use technology very well.
Okay.
And that's something that I think would categorize me as a super millennial.
Okay, cool. So I know the Simon Sinek millennial version is you guys are impatient and you guys are, you want all this value faster than you deserve it. Like, that's the whole baby boomer view of a millennial, right?
Yeah, so that is Simon's thing, but Simon says. But I think that millennials we're motivated more by value as opposed to money. So it's not uncommon to find a millennial living in a tiny apartment in New York, not making rent because he's working at a startup that's going to change the world. That's not common. Whereas a baby boomer would take that 9 to 5 10 times out of 10. Okay. I think that's the difference. And then obviously, right behind me, I think 1990. I was born 94. I think 95 is already classified as Gen Z, which is the next generation.
Right.
Social media people.
Right, which is actually a whole lot more like boomers in a lot of areas, I guess they're saying. So that's interesting. Topic for probably another day, right? So speaking of technology, all the kind of things that you like to use, how are you finding that technology, and you already kind of talked a little bit about this, how are you finding that helps you engage more with people? Because like I was saying, I'm an Xer. I'm a Gen Xer. And so I grew up in both worlds. And the old world was you could text when I kind of came of age, right? And you could meet people at Starbucks, and that's how you engaged. Now it's completely different, good and bad, right? So tell me, how's technology changing the way you engage? Technology
has done 2 really important things. So number 1, it's allowed me sitting here talking to you. We've never met before, but we're still collaborating on stuff. So that's A. I can talk to anybody in the world and we can collaborate on anything. So that's A. And B, technology allows us to keep those relationships documented so we can remember where we met, how we met, what we talked about, and all that stuff. Yep. So one of the things I do a ton of networking. I meet a ton of people. At one point I was meeting 100 plus people in person a week. Wow. Just from networking events and meetings. Yeah. So I was losing track of it. I started taking notes on every person I met with. I had a 7 bullet point thing that I just took, 3 words on, and that helped me remember what's going on. So technology lets us meet new people and then also keep in touch with those people.
Interesting. And so tell us a little bit more about your plan around that. Like, because if you've got a system for networking too, I'm assuming, right? You had a 7-point system for each person, and like, how did you translate all those people you were meeting into something actionable?
So I have a weird strategy, which won't make sense, I think, unless you're a millennial. Okay, but bear with me.
Okay.
My strategy is I'm not there to sell you. Like, if I have a meeting with you, I don't care if you buy from me or not. I want to figure out how I can help you.
Right.
Okay. And it's super cheesy. Like, it's so cheesy. And I've had hundreds of people tell me, oh yeah, right, that's BS. It's not. That's just how I am. You talk to me for more than 10 minutes, you'll figure it out.
Right.
And then when I go in and I do that, so I'm always thinking like, well, okay, this person sells insurance. They want to be connected to a financial planner. Well, I know a financial planner because I just sat down with him. Mm-hmm. So I'm always trying to figure out how I can match people up. And then, eventually, obviously, my name's out there and people will start sending me business. So that's like my strategy for it.
Okay, so let's say you and I go to a live networking event together. Let's say we go to a live LinkedIn, meetup, right?
Meetup or something. Yep.
And you carry business cards? Is that something you do?
I do, but I don't believe in it. I have to, but I don't like it.
Yeah, especially with probably the group you're working with, they still want business cards, right?
Yeah. Yep. And they want fancy ones.
Yeah. So we go to the event. We've got our handy dandy business cards for our baby boomers we're going to talk to. And we're going to be there an hour, and we're going to listen to somebody, and then there's going to be an hour afterwards, a cocktail party. Tell me a little bit about what we're going to do, what we do.
So divide and conquer kind of thing?
Sure. Whatever your plan for us would be.
Sure. So we would just figure out like who we're trying to meet, because if there's 100 people at an event, you're not meeting all 100. So let's say you're looking to connect with accountants. Okay. So we're going to walk into the room. I do one of two things. Number one is I look for the leader of the chapter or the group. Mm-hmm. Where you'll be able to tell who they are. You'll just ask them, like, who put this together? So you go talk to them first and say, hey, I'm looking to meet accountants. Who's an accountant here? Mm-hmm. And then within 2 minutes, we're already introduced to the accountants that we want to meet. So we get that done. We get that out of the way. We get our business cards exchanged, maybe chat for 5 minutes. And then I spend the rest of the time just moving my way from conversation to conversation of groups of more than 3 people. If it's more than 3 people, it's not a private discussion. You're not interrupting anything. Okay. So then you hop in, you walk in, you do that cheesy thing they do in movies where everyone's laughing and you walk in, you're like, oh, ha, 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 let me tell you X, Y, and Z joke or whatever. You get them, to converse with you. You'll figure out very quickly who likes you and who doesn't. You'll exchange cards with them. You'll be like, okay, I just want to go talk to these people, and you'll move on to the next group. I also have a system for taking the business cards and converting them into contacts on my phone and sending them a follow-up email, which we could talk about after as well. And that's my strategy of networking. So it's to meet the strategic people first, right, and then afterwards meet as many people as I can to get their card. Once I have their card, then that leads to my next system of the follow-up email, which says, hey, great chatting with you. Unfortunately, we only saw each other for 2 minutes. Can we have a 5-minute call or want to sit down for coffee?
Okay, cool. So you take a live meet and greet, connect with them online afterwards, send them some sort of follow-up, that's somewhat personal, I'm assuming, and then decide if you want to further the relationship. That's pretty much.
For me, yeah, because for me, I always want to further the relationship. Like I love meeting people, I love learning from people. But if you want it to be purely strategic, then you'd obviously buckle down on the ones that can help you.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. Because I think a lot of people, what a lot of at least intrigues me about how you roll on social media and are doing things is you seem to be connecting with people all the time and doing it really well and strategically. So how would you decide? For your example, how you would take 100 people that you meet in a week and narrow it down to the people that you want to engage, and like what sort of messaging happens from there? Like, because you're trying to provide value, so that's kind of opposite of how a lot of people do that. So I'd love to know more about what that looks like for you.
So my process, or how I would help someone else do it if they were not doing it that way?
Well, if they're different, both, but I would assume they'd be similar, right?
All right, yeah. So I'll go with mine first because I'm stuck up. I think the way I do it is I try to find that one line or something to open up the conversation that, let me back up. Every person has their unique spin, right? Like you talk to somebody, you can tell what their unique twist is going to be. Maybe they're funny, maybe they're insightful, but they have something special about them that's memorable. Okay, that's how we classify people in our minds. Okay. So I would remind them when I follow up with them something about me that would be memorable. You know, hey, remember we talked about X, Y, and Z, or we chatted about politics or whatever it would be. Okay, so I take that and then I open the conversation with them, and then I let them decide if they want to continue the conversation. I'm unfortunately for me, because this hurts me to my core, I don't have time to talk to everyone.
Yeah.
And I need to figure out who I can talk to, and I'm not going to waste my time talking to people that don't want to talk to me in the first place. Mm-hmm. So I throw the ball at them. If they throw it back, then we start that conversation going, how people make friends, how we connected, how everyone connects, and then take it from there. So that's how I do it in person. Mm-hmm. The second part to that would be LinkedIn, and that just starts with my message. It's the same for every person. Thanks for connecting. How can I be of value? And then the same way I think we started off our conversation. Yeah. And that's just it. I let it run from there. So
do you have a way to turn those people into to leads yet? Are you still working on that?
Absolutely. I have a perfect way of turning them into leads is between my posts providing value mm-hmm. And my request to provide value. A lot of people ask me what I do. And then once they ask what I do, I flip it into my sales pitch and I say, well, I do X, Y, and Z. Is that something you're looking for? And then they hire me. And that's how I get leads.
I love it. It's simple.
And that's my strategy. There are other strategies as well. Like I work with some people who love networking, and they niche down. Like they know exactly who they're looking for. Mm-hmm. And that's their strategy is completely different. They come in, they find the president of the chapter or whoever they're looking for, and they say, hey, I want to meet these 3 people. They go meet those 3 people, and they spend 15 minutes with them. They charm them with their sales pitch or whatever, however they being themselves. Mm-hmm. And then they take the relationship to the next level with a coffee or whatever it is, or a demo or something like that. And that's very niche down. Like they'll only go to meet those 3 people. They'll ignore the 97 others in the room. And that works well. That works amazing as well.
Interesting. So that's very cool. Because I think honestly, people are always looking for a better mousetrap. And I love that yours is not a mousetrap. Right?
It's not a trap. Right.
Yeah, it's very value led and it's very simple. But what I really like about it is it's very direct and intentional. You know why you're there. You know who you're there to meet. You start with them, and you don't overwhelm them. Right? You just get in there, have a conversation, exchange cards, and then you let conversation go as it goes. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. There's 7 billion people in the world. I can help plenty of them, and I don't need to worry about the ones I can't.
Very cool. So where do you see this going from here? Like you've had some success on LinkedIn. You really like to reach out, build value. What's the next step for Eli? Like what's the next thing you're hoping to do here? Because I think we talked a little bit about that beforehand.
Sure. So like my long-term, I've got a couple of goals that I'm working towards. Like I've got a 3 to 5 year goal where I want to be at a point that people know my brand. I don't have to sell my brand anymore. I could just sell my service. Okay. That's 3 to 5 years. Actually, I want to have that done by January, but whatever. 3 to 5 years is more realistic.
Okay.
That's that. And then like my 10, 15 year goal is I want to retire by the age of 40 and do this for free. I want to be able like make enough money that I can park it somewhere that it'll make me more money. And then I can help other people for free, because I get so frustrated when I see a small business owner doing the same thing again and again and being upset with himself that it's not working well. And like that just makes me upset. So I want to help people do that, and I want to not charge for it, because that would be my end game. That would be I guess that would be my 10 to 15 year goal. And then after that, I got no idea. I'm a millennial. We don't plan
that. Yeah. 10 to 15 is big. Yeah. So that's awesome. That's very cool. I have a similar goal. And so I can totally vibe with that. So kind of to wrap things here, there's been some really great stuff in here. Let's say that you are that 10 to 15 years down the road, right? And you're helping people for free. You want to help as many people as possible, right? So you only get an hour or two with each person, because there's, if you offer your service for free, you're going to have a lot of people that are willing to participate. Sure. So let's say you only get to spend an hour or two. You spend 7 days with them, and you only get to spend an hour a day with them. What would you work on with them?
I know it down.
It's vague, I know, but sorry.
Well, I understand what you're asking. That's fine. I think, first of all, I think in 10 to 15 years, we'll have a lot of robots and AI that can help with many things.
Yeah.
Let's pretend we're there now, right now. I'd work it on a few things. Number one is time blocking. Absolutely. People need to learn how to block time, because we're checking our phones hundreds of thousands of times a day. Like we need to flip the phone over, work for an hour, take a 5-minute break, flip it back over, that kind of thing. So that would be setting up a time blocking schedule for them. And number two would be really niching down. Did you see, I don't know if you saw that article, there was I hate to get political on your show, but it was from the marketing side of it, where the way Trump campaign did micro-targeting for Facebook ads. Like they literally targeted, like each block in a city would get a different ad. Like they went really niche down. Yeah. I think that's something that people need to focus on. Like, oh yeah, I can help everyone. I've heard that a million times. Like I know everyone. I can't connect you to somebody if I don't know who specifically you're looking for. So people need to work on that. So that would be like the two things is the time blocking, and then figuring out who their ideal client is, and then working towards that instead of finding any client and then being upset if it doesn't work out.
That's fantastic. I completely agree. Those are two amazingly good things to work on, because you can't go to the network meeting and go meet everyone. You're looking for the accountants over 50.
Correct. You can't. Yeah. And it's impossible. And if I say, oh, and who are you looking for? You're like, well, really anyone who has a business. All right. There's, 40 million business owners in America. Like, what do you like? I'm sorry. I can't, I need a little more than that to go on.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, man, thanks so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. Where can people find you? Where can we come follow your stuff, and what's your website? All that good stuff.
On LinkedIn. That's actually another one of my short-term goals, is to be taking people off of LinkedIn to a platform that I can manage and have control of. Yep. So that would probably be at some point. They could find me on my website or whatever, but at this point I'm on LinkedIn. I also have a website, elihochberg.me, where you can find out more about me. Awesome. Well, once again, thanks so much for being on the show, and wish you the best of luck, and hope to talk to you soon. Thank you. Appreciate it. It was a pleasure being here. Thanks, man. Have a good one.